The Minister of Local Government and Rural Development, Akwesi Oppong-Fosu, has been relieved of his position, and the President has, in accordance with the Constitution, also reshuffled some more of the ministers. Julius Deborah replaced him, and then Alex Segbefia has also been assigned as a Deputy Minister for Defence, and then also Deputy Minister for Employment and Labour Relations, Entry Bosiako Sechere, has also been nominated as the Eastern Regional Minister. Yao Berfi Efa Berfi, Deputy Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, is now Deputy Minister for Chieftaincy and Traditional Affairs. So how relevant really are these changes? We're getting on the telephone line now to speak to some experts. David Agbe is Executive Director of the Ghana Institute of Governance and Security. Good evening, sir, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you very much, Steve.
There are many who will say that they anticipated this reshuffle, especially considering that the country has had major challenges. Do you foresee, from where you are, from the governance perspective, whether these changes are critical or they're necessary to drive the President's agenda forward?
Yeah, thank you so much once again. I think that it is necessary to effect some of these reshuffles. I think that it is long overdue, in a sense that, as to speak, the current, government needs more energy to really inject into the system, so that at least Ghanaians will see, good information flowing, reflecting in their communities every single day. If you take a look at the local government, minister, for instance, Akwesi Oppong, I think that it is good, but it is not reflecting in the society as expected. We need more energetic person that will be able to go, around the country, who knows, the conditions of, all the villages and all the constituencies, and even in the urban centers. For instance, Accra, if you take a critical look at Accra, for instance, everybody is complaining that, there is so much, debt and all kinds of, wastage, in the system. And so I think that it is a good call that the President has actually effected this change. And we hope that the new person coming on, Julius Deborah, I must say that...
So, David, let me pause you a bit. I mean, you're mentioning continuously that we need new, energetic ministers. So if we take the local government ministry, for example, and the fact that Akwesi Oppong-Fosu is being relieved, are you suggesting that he didn't show sufficient energy and drive in that ministry for which you support his removal?
First of all, I think that I'm measuring him from the perspective of the fact that the street naming, even the street naming exercise, when the President announced it, he indicated that within 6 months or something of that sort, he wants all the streets, to be named in Ghana. And we've not seen those, activities being taken place. So you look at it when the President gives an instruction, it is difficult for it to be implemented. And so you could see a bit of confusion there. I thought that when the President gives an instruction, it must be followed. Information, needs to reflect, and then we should see, their ministers taking up all those information and make sure that it is done. When you are a leader and you give information and people do not, follow to make sure that those things actually happen, then it means that you are not being effective. And so those are the things that we are looking when it comes to governance processes and information dissemination.
Right. And so you feel that Akwesi Oppong-Fosu has been sacrificed for his inability to follow through with the presidential directive?
I think that I will not blame him alone, but I blame the entire government, that the President, he has all the power. So if people are not doing what you instructed them to do, what is the next line of action that he needs to actually take? And I don't know whether the President has been so forceful to make sure that all his communications are well crafted, to make sure that the people actually benefit from his line of communication.
There have also been concerns about the refuse situation in our major cities as a result. In Accra, for example, there have been challenges with refuse dump sites shutting down because the ministry owes them money. You think all of these, I know that the President has not given any any reasons for this particular change, but you suspect that across board, some of these things might be the reasons why these changes are being implemented.
Precisely, and more to the point, too, the government is also not using all necessary means to also raise revenue. You know, local government ministry needs a lot of revenue, and so I think that the government needs a lot of resources to be able to also implement these nice ideas. So if you have nice ideas and you don't have the logistics to be able to implement those things, then actually you have a certain challenge. And so the government needs to make sure that all the available resources in this country that they should have used and which they are not using, they should make sure that they use all those resources. They should not be crying to the international community that they need money. Whilst money is here in Ghana. If you look at the oil sector in Ghana now, you know, we have done an accounting process of these things, and we realize that the Jubilee field alone, you know, when you quantify the monetary terms over there, it's about 160 billion US dollars. You know, 2 billion, barrels of oil at the Jubilee field alone. So if you have all these natural resources, deposited in your soil, and you are not making good use of it, then you have a technical challenge. And so the resources are there, and we expect the government to be proactive, to show the way. Let people see his leadership credentials. The president, as we speak now, everybody is accounting or is counting on him because he has all the critical knowledge. Right from, down there being a minister, information, MP, vice president, the presidency, as the third gentleman of the land. So he has no excuse to make sure that Ghana benefits from his experience. And so if certain things are lacking, in fact, it's a big challenge to everybody. Everybody is looking up to the president to do more than what he's doing now.
So, I mean, the thing is that this reshuffle comes on the back of several concerns. There being economic challenges we're facing, the city is not doing too well, people are complaining about inflation and all of those things. So what I'm trying to figure out is that as a governance expert, looking at the challenges we have as a country, do you feel that the key areas the president is reappointing or appointing are necessary to solve these problems?
I hope so. I hope so. Julius Debra, for instance, I know that he's a very active guy. When he was a secretary for NGC at Eastern Region, there he was very very tactful, doing certain things good, and more or less, he's also a village boy, so he knows all the nuances of, the community. So I think that he'll be able to bring some, energy there. But there is one thing that I also want to touch on. I think that Alex Tegbetia, for instance, the Deputy Minister of Defense, I thought that he could have been offered, a bigger position more than the Deputy Minister. Anyway,
what would you say a bigger position could be?
For instance, he could have been a substantive minister. A deputy. I thought that if you looked at the ladder, the hierarchy of governance processes, where he was a deputy chief, chief of staff, it is higher than even a ministerial appointment if I'm looking at it.
Right, David, I will have you hold briefly. I'm also joined on the other telephone line by Franklin Cudjoe, president of Imania, and we'll have a chat with him too. So, Franklin, good evening and thanks for joining us.
Good evening. How are you?
I am fine, thank you. I mean, these changes, were they surprising for you?
Well, not entirely surprising. I thought they were essentially low-hanging fruits. I'm not too sure these are the big kahunas that everybody was looking out for, but they are small steps, and I suspect that the president is waiting for the bigger one. I would think that the only one that made a lot of got me a lot interested in is the additional hand that has been asked to the support to the Minister of Finance, and I thought that was a welcome idea. I mean, at Senchi, we discussed this matter, and so to see that the president has taken the cue out of it, this is really welcome.
Do you have specific expectations? I do know that you have been very critical about a lot of challenges facing our country, the use of oil revenue, improving tax collections, and generating more income, a lot more. I mean, I can't continue to finish it. But looking at the challenges facing our country, are there specific expectations which you have, which you would want the president to perhaps appoint people to lead this agenda, really?
Well, it looks to me that the additional macroeconomic economists that have been added to the ministry might help put things in perspectives. I would think that if within a week we did not see the taming of the escalating dollar, essentially the ceiling wobbling, then would have cause to complain. I would think that there are other really dire issues concerning the economy that ought to be dealt with almost immediately. I would hope that this new gentleman wouldn't come to add to the current debt weight and would rather show some mettle. As we speak, yes, there are a number of issues. I'm sure he would have to ensure that the fiscal side of things are done properly. And then also ensure that we essentially make use of our little resources quite well. I would think that these issues are known to him and they are already been known to the finance minister. I would really have wanted to see, probably that we will see, but a greater collaboration between the finance ministry and the Bank of Ghana. Because it seems to me that there's a lot of discordance in the way they perceive their specific task. If that incoherence is sorted out, it looks to me that we may be in a position to move the economy a little bit higher up.
What about the specific qualities of some of the individuals that, for example, Alex Sagbafia, who is coming back, returning to be a deputy of defense? I mean, he was a chief of staff under Mills, and he's been off for a while, and he's suddenly back. Do you feel that he will bring anything different on board?
Well, as I said, I mean, these are low-hanging fruits. They make no major dent on the national affairs right now. Our national affairs right now are economic situations. I do not see how the appointment of the Deputy Minister of Defense would essentially lessen our woes. So my point is, all the other appointments necessarily, they make a minor dent on the economy really. I don't see any real connections. I would think that the big one for me is the addition to the Ministry of Finance. Those are the matters that concern many Ghanaians right now.
So really there's no change in the story or strategy or direction of government as far as you see these changes?
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, as I said, the only thing going out for me is one result out of the SETI consensus, which, by the way, is the biggest thing right now. All those other appointments are essentially musical chairs, really.
Right, let me pause you there and go back to David Agbe. If David, you're there, I mean, today is also a very important day. The emergency extraordinary ECOWAS summit is underway. I mean, I have issues, especially considering that there was a meeting of African heads of state in France to meet the president there. So, is this ECOWAS summit really something that we should be clapping our hands for?
Yes, it is good. But see, before that topic, I would like to make a strong, passionate appeal to the president that if he wants to be successful, now what he has to do is to make sure that he review all the contracts signed and our petroleum sector. He has to review all the contracts to make sure that he benefits from the oil, discovery. If he does not change all the contracts to make sure that Ghanaians actually benefit, then he will suffer. He will suffer the consequences for it 2016. And so what he has to do is to master the courage and change all the oil contracts so that Ghanaians will actually benefit. We should master that courage. And that is the only savior for President John Dramani Mahama.
David, you're talking about something on the local front. I mean, in Ghana, for him to be successful, he has to look at the local content and contracts that are being signed for the oil deal. I was earlier asking about the ECOWAS Extraordinary Summit and how you feel that this is necessary in the overall framework of what's happening in Ghana and what's happening in the rest of ECOWAS, really.
Steve, I'm passionate about that story as well. And so the ECOWAS Summit, for me, I see it as a long overdue. By now, they should have met almost about 2 or 3 times to digest on the critical issues affecting Africa, and especially the insurgency in Nigeria for now. The ECOWAS and then the AU has not been able to do more. It has not been satisfactory at all. I mean, the whole concept of ECOWAS and then AU, is that we should be our brother's keeper. We should be able to, promote, a common idea to make sure that everybody in this continent feels happy. If we look at the Boko Haram, insurgency, for instance, it's so worrying. Even this morning, around 10 a.m. thereabouts, 2 chiefs were adopted in Borno State when they were traveling for a funeral in Sapa, for instance. And so every single day we keep on getting unfolding stories from Nigeria. And so we think that our leaders need to be more proactive, to be more preventive, so that some of these things will not happen before they start crashing their heads once upon a time. And so there should be preemptive measures all the time. The warning signs were there, but our leaders were so lackadaisical to take all the necessary action to prevent some of these occurrences in our continent. And so we are telling our leaders that they need to be proactive. When they are doing those things, and then they are not being proactive, people are seeing them as inexperienced. And so they need to actually, let us see a good leadership characteristics from them, so that we can also be proud of our leaders. As we speak now, we are not proud of them.
David, I feel that, we've gone past summits and perhaps it's actually time for action. Are there specific expectations that you expect to come out of this summit by the close of day today?
Yes, I'm expecting them to be more, resilient, more proactive, and, come into one table and say that we have arrived at a certain consensus to be able to fight the insurgency in Nigeria, the Boko Haram incident. I mean, it's becoming like a bushfire now in African continent. And so the better we deal with it, then we can all succeed. But as it is now, they should leave it, hanging there before we realize it will jump into another country, and it will be terrible for our continent. And so our leaders must master all the necessary courage to fight this Boko Haram, insurgency.
All right, thank you very much, David Agbe. We're trying to cross over to our reporter, Eric Curtis Howard, who is at the summit grounds to get some update from the place. I still have Franklin Kujo on the line. So, Franklin, I'll wrap up with you. I mean, here we are. We have a lot of problems on our hand. We have economic issues. We have security concerns. I mean, ECOWAS is meeting in Ghana to address some of the security concerns across the border. What should be our strategy? It doesn't look like the Better Ghana agenda is working for quite a lot of people, with teachers going on strike, both striking here and there, and then our president also has an added task of dealing with ECOWAS problems. We seem to be swamped. What should be the direction of governance for our country?
Well, it looks as if the old age adage holds. If you see your neighbor's beard on fire, you've got to fetch water and keep it close to yours. I suspect that is what the president is doing. The fact that it's been given an added duty of overseeing the situation in ECOWAS sub-region, it only means that he is just being responsible for some of these issues that are confronting the sub-region. So I think it's a significant departure from President Mills, who said the UFIASEM. But let's also not forget that the cynic in some people will say, "Oh, the president has got his work cut out for him. He has issues back home. What do we care if Boko Haram is rampaging?" But it's a appears to me that the reasons for which Boko Haram is rampaging are all economic. I do not even think it's religious. And they are economic to the extent that the northern part of the northern Nigeria is essentially a deprived area. It looks as if we are seeing similar signs here, where we seem to be neglecting a lot of the people who matter in this part of our world. So I can only understand that if the president is that serious with the issues of Boko Haram, he equally must be minded that in his own backyard they are growing discontent. But I think he stated that quite well in his in remarks today.
Right. Thank you very much, Franklin Cudjoe. We're grateful for your time. Franklin is president of Imani, and we're joined also now on the telephone by our reporter Eric Curtis Howard, who is at the Movenpick Hotel where the extraordinary ECOWAS summit is currently underway. So, Curtis, good evening and thanks for joining us.
Good evening.
Our understanding, you earlier spoke to us and said that you've been informed that very soon the summit will come to an end and you would have a brief of how it went. What's the development there now?
Yes, I can really confirm that the meeting with the ECOWAS heads of state should be coming to an end very soon. We are expecting it to be wrapped up within the next 30 minutes because Ivorian President Ouattara has already left the meeting ground.
Okay.
He left in his convoy just some few minutes ago, and from the look at things outside the premises of the Movenpick Hotel, where all the media are currently at, you could see that the police are preparing their motorcade, and most of the vehicles have been lined up for the various heads of state to move, to sit in and move. So we're expecting the meeting to end very soon, and officials will come out with an official communique to the media, and within that communique, they will tell us what the actions that they've taken in place to deal with the Boko Haram threat. And also, we learned that there will be a media briefing after the whole event where the media can pose questions to the various, some of the heads of state who will be around to see how best they can deal, or whether the strategies they've outlined in the communique would work. So this is the latest development. This is the latest
development, right. Curtis, I also know that for international conferences of this nature, mostly journalists are not allowed in. But have you been able to glean something from inside? I mean, how the discussions have been ongoing? Have you got anything at all?
I can confirm that has not been possible because security is tight everywhere around there. Even coming in was a big issue because you have to, even with accreditation, it was a big issue. You have to convince them who you are and everything. Even for the international media, Al Jazeera is here, CNN is here, BBC is here. They did not have it easy as well. So all of us are outside. Nobody have had the opportunity to go in to even peep as to how discussions went so far.
Right. Thank you very much, Eric Curtis Howard, for that update. Eric is our reporter there at the Movenpick Hotel where the extraordinary summit of ECOWAS is underway. My name is Stephen N.T. I will be right back.